Fine. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a meeting of the Licensing Committee, Premises and Gambling for North Norfolk District Council, being held on Wednesday, the 1st of March, 2023 at 11 a.m. So receive apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Don Birch, Councillor Harry Blathwaite, Councillor Christopher Cushing, Councillor Pauline Grove-Jones, Councillor John Rest, Councillor Eric Vardy and Councillor Andreas Ussimi.
Fine, thank you. Any public questions?
We've received no public questions.
Excellent. Minutes to approve as correct record of the minutes of the Licensing Subcommittee held on 25th of May last year, and the Licensing Subcommittee Premises and Gambling meeting held on the 19th of October last year. Any questions, changes, comments? Yes, Gerard, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't at this meeting. However, page 3, application 5, Worcester Park. I'd just like to give you an update on the current position.
Yes, please.
Recently, I attended a local parish council meeting and the applicants turned up. It's been quite a difficult application, this one. Basically, the problems they've had is traffic going down Chapel Road, which is unacceptable for a wedding venue. They've addressed at the meeting, they've addressed all the issues that were of concern. They're basically putting signage on the main road to stop people from going down Chapel Road, which is part of the application, I believe. And they've also sort of changed the postcode because it sort of sits in 2 wards, basically. So they've made the postcode on their website the one furthest away, so that traffic will go down that way. And I'm having meetings with them. I've had meetings with them already, and I'm having another meeting next week. But basically, all the issues in the application that were of concern have now been addressed. And I've got a meeting next week with them just to make sure that they're going to carry out all the problems they've got, the problems that have been highlighted in the application. So basically, they've stepped up to the mark in the end. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So they've accepted the conditions that were.
There's been a bit of a backwards and forwards from the residents on Chapel Road for about a year. It sort of wasn't going anywhere, and in the end, I've had a meeting with them, and they came along to the parish council meeting, and they've agreed with the majority of the concerns of the residents in the area, which is a good thing.
Thank you.
If you like, I've got another meeting next week with them, and I don't know if you want me to report back, but I'm quite happy to.
Fine, thank you very much.
Thank
You would like to update any additional information on that, please?
Thanks, Gerard. So when it was determined at the Licensing Subcommittee to approve the new application for the premises licence, that application was appealed against at Magistrates Court, and on the 17th of August 2022, the magistrate's order was that they had allowed the appeal. So they ordered that the appeal be allowed. The magistrates approved the position submitted by the parties as follows. So the decision is allowed, and conditions 1 and 2 under paragraph 4 of the subheading conditions of the decision notice in the court store shall be substituted as follows. So condition 1 was changed that no licensable activities shall take place for 12 weekends, so a Saturday and Sunday of each year. There is no restriction as to when these weekends shall take place over the course of the year. However, records of the same shall be kept and made available upon request to the North Norfolk District Council Licensing Authority. Condition 2 is the terminal hour for the sale of alcohol on the premises shall be 23:30, and the terminal hour for the playing of amplified music shall be 23:55, and parties shall bear their own costs in this case. So following that court order, a new premises licence was issued, taking into account those magistrates' rewording of conditions.
Gerard, I don't know whether it's allowed. Would you like a copy of that? Is that possible for Gerard to have a copy of the magistrate's ruling, please? Is that helpful for you? And I don't know whether you can give the response to the council, because obviously you read, so the magistrates appealed, they won the appeal, and then you then read something from, so you read something from afterwards, subsequent to that. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want that as well? Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Gerard. Any other questions relating to the minutes? So no. So could I have an approver, please, and a seconder? Emma is the approver. Seconder. Nigel. Thank you. Any items of urgent business?
There are no items of urgent business.
And any declarations of interest for this particular section? None. And I don't think there's any other urgent business at my discretion, is there? No. Okay. Fine. So Licensing Act 2003 and Gambling Act 2005 update, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Before you in your papers, you have the annual review for the Licensing Act 2003 and Gambling Act 2005 update. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read that, so I won't go through it line by line, but we'll give an overview and summary of that. Some of the changes that were mentioned at the previous Licensing Committee regulatory also apply to this report in terms of team structure and the change to that structure in terms of us having a new licensing enforcement officer here at North Norfolk. Now, Nikki Davison to my right is in that role and took it over last year. She has a wealth of experience she brings from 18 years in the licensing admin team. There's also been some changements to the management of the licensing public protection team. And now that is combined with food safety, health and safety, licensing and sampling, and have 2 team leaders to cover that remit. There are also 2 part-time licensing administrators that also help provide provision in that service area. So in terms of work undertaken under the Licensing Act and Gambling Act, there's been some project work that's currently ongoing, partly the Community Alcohol Partnership, CAP, which is focusing around alcohol in the area of Sheringham. It's a project that links interested parties, the council's licensing team, the police, schools, trading standards, youth services, and provides a focus on licensing within the area of Sheringham. Sheringham's been identified as an area to try and reduce antisocial behaviour and alcohol-related crimes, underage drinking and responsible drinking among young adults as well. So we're heavily involved in the CAP partnership project in Sheringham. Also, Pub Watch continues to go well with a joint Pub Watch in Sheringham and Cromer, which licensees and partner agencies, ourselves and the police, still continue to find beneficial. And there are aspirations of the department to instigate a Pub Watch scheme that would cover Wells and Fakenham as well. There is already another outstanding Pub Watch in North Walsham. So there's one existing in North Walsham, Cromer and Sheringham, but the aspiration is to try and launch one in Fakenham and Wells. They're a useful forum to discuss issues amongst licensees, new regulations, new situations that might be occurring that might be relevant. And yeah, I think everyone involved finds those beneficial. So in terms of licensing committee hearings, there have been several within the last year. 5 objections have been placed for the licensing subcommittee to determine the application. One of those was resolved informally before committee sat, and one actually we've just heard in the minutes went to the Magistrates Court for review. You can see in 2.5 a table of licensed premises, and there has been there are now 580 premises licenses within our district. And the appendix that's attached gives you a breakdown of all the licensing figures for 2023, 22 and 21, if you'd want those in more details. You'll also see within that table the number of temporary event notices that have been issued by the district council for the period, and that sees an increase to 408 from 260. So we've really seen that that section of licensing regenerate post-COVID, a high application in terms of TENS in that area. And that then also has a knock-on impact to our safety advisory group. So a lot of those temporary event notices come through the North Norfolk District Council Safety Advisory Group, which is a collection of partners who advise event coordinators on matters of safety, fire, first aid provision. So that area of work has increased, but the team continue to work to issue not just issue the licenses, but play an active role in that safety advisory group as well. You'll see a section on pavement licensing. Regime was introduced as part of the COVID situation to encourage people to be out in the fresh air more rather than in closed public spaces. And there is it was due to end, but it looks like it will be extended. It's been fairly low, the uptake of pavement licenses within North Norfolk, and there have been currently 9 issued within the district. There are some expected changes to come to gambling legislation, and the team continues through the Institute of Licensing to pay attention to those and be ready to implement them as and when they come through. They should hopefully safeguard against gambling harm within our communities. There is a further section on public space protection orders. These were brought about by the Antisocial Crime and Policing Act, and they allow councils to introduce public space protection orders for all sorts of things. We use them currently within the district for dog fouling, sky lanterns and things like that, but there is a thought process with our police colleagues that we might try to use these to control drinking in public spaces, particularly where there are problems of antisocial behaviour. That will be an area of work that we will need to work with colleagues in the police on and look to implement. There'll be a period of consultation and with towns and parish councils if we continue to pursue them, but it is another aspiration of the department, and police colleagues are particularly keen on that in some of our areas. So it's something that will require our work in the coming year. So hopefully that gives you an overview of Licensing Act and Gambling Act work within the licensing team, and happy to take any questions myself and Nikki. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I'd like to formally put on record the committee's thanks for all the work that you've done on this. It's can be quite challenging, so we really appreciate the work that you've done. So thank you very much. I'm going to just start off with one question. Community Alcohol Partnership. I know you've only just recently introduced it. I don't know exactly when, but how successful has it been so far?
Thank you, Chair. So it is a new scheme that's been launched for Sheringham. It's not a new scheme. It's been launched in it's been launched nationally for a number of years. And it was brought about due to antisocial behaviour and the problems the police were having, specifically to do with underage drinkers. So it was launched, I would like to say, last month.
Oh, sorry.
It came about towards the end of last year, sort of middle to the end of last year. So I've been out with the beat manager, Ian Smith, PC Ian Smith at Sheringham. So we've just done some compliance checks for our off-licensed premises initially. That was it. Actually, that was in June. We've done that same process again on the 20th of February. We were introducing them to the CAP partnership checking their refusals, their age verification policies, staff, what staff training had with regards to the sales of alcohol, specifically for minors. We will be very soon doing some test compliancing for those establishments to see whether or not they are actually putting in place what they say to us they are. So that's taken place very shortly, where we will gather that intelligence and go back to the license holders, informing them of that exercise, what we found. We have got lots of resources through the CAP scheme that we can provide to those license holders. So there is online training that we can provide to the license holders and all the staff, together with providing signage for the Challenge 25 specifically. There's lots of other work going in amongst the schools, the youth groups. So it's a collaboration of all the partnerships. Just as an overview, the objectives under the action plan. So the first objective is to reduce incidents of alcohol sales to young people. The second objective is to reduce proxy purchasing and the general supply of alcohol to the under 18s. The third objective is to develop a responsible retailing ethos and effective partnership approach in the CAP area. The fourth objective is to reduce antisocial behaviour associated with youth alcohol consumption. And the fifth is to increase young people's awareness of the risks of drinking alcohol. And the sixth objective is to improve understanding of safe drinking limits and the law relating to the sale of alcohol to young people. So that's not only to those minors, it's obviously to those that the parents and the wider community as well. So there's lots that we're looking at. There's lots of different tasks associated and different people doing the different tasks. So although we're in the early stages, there's a lot of work that's already been, and there's a lot to do. So you'll see certainly in Sheringham, if you went into Tesco's and Sainsbury's, that you will see there's big roller banners which are publicising the CAP partnership. And so we're just going to be doing lots more to get that awareness. So yeah, it's a positive thing. And what we would hope is that although it's for Sheringham, we would certainly hope it would be rolling out to Cromer, for example, because it's not just a problem in Sheringham, it is wider. However, it's more prevalent in Sheringham, which is why we're starting there. So yes, good.
Thank you. You took the second question out. I was going to ask how it was accepted by the supermarkets, how they roll on board.
So yeah, the supermarkets are on board. Those bigger chains, so Sainsbury's and Tesco's, are already part of the retail alcohol group anyway. So they've got their standards. So we will still be checking them for compliance testing along with all the others. But they are a good lead in that the trade, that they do have comprehensive staff training, regular staff training. They have the Challenge 25 ID verification scheme in place. They have all the signage. So they are really the role models, but we wouldn't be excluding them from any checks. So
Right.
yeah.
Thank you. I must admit, I find it strange that you have to be 25 plus in order to buy alcohol. It seems like you can go to the
So
pub.
the Challenge 25, previously it was the Challenge 18, because obviously you have to be 18, but they brought in the Challenge 25 that basically, if you deem a person looks under 25, you would ask for their ID, because there are lots of people who may not even be 18, but they may look older than 25. It's to capture and it's due diligence to make sure that 18 and unders are not being
That rules me out then. Right, Nigel.
Yes, sorry, I don't want to appear negative, but from a business perspective, I would suggest you might have too many objectives, and it might be better to harden down onto 4 specifics, really hard specifics, because there did seem to be a lot of objectives there, and maintaining the research and the assimilation of information to try and fulfill all those objectives would seem a little bit of a large task.
Sorry. Yes, I mean, with there being 6 objectives, it's to cover the whole range of it. And it's not, obviously, there's different partners that are going to be looking specifically into the different objectives. So it wouldn't just be, for example, licensing, we'd look at all of them, we'd have our own part to play, but collectively, we would be looking to achieve all of those objectives. So these objectives have been agreed really between the police and the CAP coordinator. So I can certainly relay back to them at our next meeting that we've had the discussion, and that you know, maybe whether we can consolidate some of the objectives, possibly, but they did deem to see that those objectives were obviously important in the whole delivery of the CAP and what we want to achieve out of it.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that they're not important, but I think, I mean, this wouldn't have done me any good when I was 15, but I just think in this day and age, I mean, we have a huge problem in one of the schools in Fakenham, which is both drug and alcohol related, and it's very, very serious. And I think that if your brief is too big, you can focus too much on the periphery and not really hone into the real key elements, which is the sale. And I have to say, education of parents. My wife's a peripatetic music teacher. And, well, you know, there's a lot of education of parents that's needed.
You're certainly correct there. So the CAP scheme is looking at enforcement, it's looking at education, it's looking at the well-being of those youths and having activities for them to do to take them away from hanging around the streets. And it's getting the education in the schools, and predominantly it's the secondary school, the high schools, but they will also be looking at primary schools because that's where it can sort of stem from. And it's what we have done is we've done surveys with the licensed trade, which is when we went out in June, myself and PC and Smith. They've done a survey within the school as well. So that's the parents. So the school have been surveying the parents, and a survey will be going out very shortly for the residents as well.
Okay, and you talk about spreading this wider. Are you going to provide a model format, if you like, that could be taken into Fakenham or to Wells or?
So each CAP is designed specifically for a town or an area. So certainly that is something that, I mean, if the headmaster, headmistress wants to get in contact with the beat manager at Fakenham, so it may be that we can, once we've got this established in Sheringham, we can, you know, project wider up to the Fakenham area, or whether Fakenham itself may be deemed to have its own CAP partnership. There's probably going to be very similarities for Sheringham. There is Fakenham.
I wouldn't think there's great. I wouldn't think there's many dissimilar factors. I mean, we have our SNAP meetings with the police, so I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to feed something structured into them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's fine.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Peter?
I was tempted to ask what the odds were that the gambling regulations would change, but I wouldn't do that. Pavement licensing, there's only 9. And I'm sure we can all think of lots and lots of places that there are tables and chairs out on the pavements. Are there any insurance implications for us or them if they've not got a license?
When they apply for the license, Nikki, I'm right in saying that they have to provide their insurance details as part of that application process.
Yep, so that is a requirement for the pavement licensing. I think we had more pavement licenses because initially that temporary provision was only till the end of September last year. So we had a lot more licenses, but they did expire on the 30th of September last year. They were all written out to say if they wanted to carry on, they had to reapply. And that's why we've only just had a minimal amount of people that have applied to go into this next year period. So that will then cease 30th of September this year. It does look as if it could be a permanent fixture that is set in legislation, but we don't know as yet. I think what you may find, some tables and chairs in different locations don't actually require a pavement license because they may have a portion outside their shop where actually it's within their own control. It doesn't encroach out onto the public highway. But certainly for premises that have got tables and chairs and they should have a license. At the moment, we don't have any enforcement powers. That those powers at the moment sit with the Highways, Norfolk County Council. It is deemed that when we have a permanent system in place, that gives the local authority more enforcement powers to take away furniture for any unlicensed premises. So watch this space.
So really, if they haven't got a licence, they are leaving themselves open to any claims. That's a pretty good way of getting them to get a licence, I would have thought.
Excuse me, anybody else? Any other questions related to that? No, thank you very much for that. Exclusion of press and public is no, and I presume no exemption matters under urgent business or anything else. So finally, before I close this meeting, this is my last licensing committee meeting that I'll be sitting and chairing. I've done this for 4 years, and if it wasn't for you guys and the officers, I think the district would be in a much poorer place. So I thank you very much for everything and for all your support. And that's it. So I close the meeting at